Awesome. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome. Drop where you're coming in from in the chat. We'll be monitoring that throughout the live stream. My name is Megan Tesch. I'm a product manager here at Vicasso.
And my name's Howard Yermish. I'm the director of product here at Vicasso. And I also wanted to make sure that you all know that running in the chat is our friend Thais, also product manager at Vicasso. And so if you've got questions during the live stream, she'll be addressing things there.
Absolutely. Well, today we are talking about case flags, but more importantly, about the support process as a whole. So, showing our agenda, we're going to talk about these three personas. So, it's pretty common that we've all been at least one or more of these situations in support. So, you're either a customer that's submitting a support ticket, or an agent that's working a support ticket, or maybe you're a manager that's overseeing the entire support team. We're diving into each one of these personas to show how case flags can really level up all three of these support experiences. So we'll also be demonstrating our newest feature that's coming soon, the case flags follow-up process.
And nothing for Salesforce would ever be the same unless we had a forward-looking statement. We are going to be demonstrating some stuff that is not yet available in the package. It is coming very soon to an AppExchange download near you. But please make sure that all of your purchase decisions are based on currently available functionality in the product. So with that, Megan, let's talk about all of the stuff for case flags that we're going to show off today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually going to start our journey off as the customer in the support experience. So we've all been that customer, right? We've submitted a ticket or we send an email when our package never arrived or something maybe doesn't fit. We need to return it. And sometimes we have a really great experience. We get fast answers, we get pleasant responses. But sometimes we have a negative experience, and that may lead to multiple attempts at reaching out to support, maybe not getting any responses at all, which really leaves us in the dark about what's happening with a support issue. So the biggest frustration about being a customer needing support is waiting for a response. So some of the really staggering numbers that we found is that 62% of companies ignore customer service emails completely. 90% of consumers rate an immediate response as important or very important when they have a customer service question. And lastly, 2/3 of customers report that the most frustrating aspect of getting customer service is waiting on hold or having to explain the same information multiple times. So if you could only fix one thing about how your company delivers support, it's to improve your responsiveness. Howard, any guesses why that is?
It's because that's what people can feel. When you are not responding to them, they feel like, why aren't you responding to me? It is literally the one thing. If you are responsive, you could screw things up. But if you're responsive, at least people are paying attention. And you're like, well, they're at least paying attention to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, we know that slow service is bad service. So responsiveness is really the one thing that customers can feel. So we're going to review a few features and case flags that help the agent respond quickly, which reducing customer wait times, increases productivity, and we'll look at how the manager can play a part too. So let's jump into the agent experience.
All right.
Awesome. So now we're going to take our journey into the agent experience. So how will case flags really help combat slow service for my customer? And one of our favorite prioritization features is the case flags utility bar. So without the utility bar, agents are really relying on list views like the one that you see here to determine what to work on next. So I'm looking at a list view. I can sort by status or maybe date time opened. And even if I have case flags and I navigate to a list view, I still see the icons, but it's not really telling me what I should work on next, which eats up a ton of time. So this is where the utility bar comes in. Agents never have to think about the next case. So the rules that you've defined in case flags determine which case I should work on next. So there's a few options here. We have cases, my team's cases, cases from my queues, and this really helps determine what I should work on next.
So one of the things I was going to say, as you're looking through this, one of the things that I love about the utility bar, and I like to configure it a special way, which is I only like showing one case in there as that's my next case. But people, sometimes they like to browse through it. It's nice to see sort of a little bit of the scope of work, but that is configurable.
Yeah, absolutely. And if your support team watches their own cases or queues, they still need to choose which one has priority, right? They can't be looking through multiple list views. And we don't want you to compromise here. So we have a new view called My Unified Cases. And this view is going to combine all of the visible options in the case flags utility bar and present them in the order that you should address them. So there is no more guessing here. And we have a little bonus quality of life feature here is that you can pin the list view that you want to remain upon load. So you don't have to spend time clicking the drop down. You can just pin your list view here.
I think what's really great about that, we hear from our customers that some teams are, it's just their cases that are assigned to them. Some teams are, it's my cases plus the queues that they're watching. And the pinned list view kind of says whatever's the most important next, that's what you're going to get to. So you don't have to worry about juggling, whether you're juggling different list views, which is a real pain in the neck, or even what's in the case flags utility bar component. You can have that My Unified Cases view and just address things as they come in, and whatever's on that priority list, you go for it. It's pretty great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can just click right to the case record here. And in this, once I click on the case, I can see the case flags utility component, tells me visually real quick the current flag level. And then I can click to see more details like current timings and the case flags history. So I better address this one fast. So I'm going to respond to the customer. That's going to clear the flag, probably sending an email out using email to case premium. And that
Shameless
action,
marketing.
yes, exactly. And that action is going to clear the flag. So I'm done, right? Howard, what if the customer doesn't respond?
What if the customer doesn't respond? Well, new feature alert, warning, 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 new feature alert. Hang on. It's our follow-up process. So Megan, let's talk about like how this new follow-up process works. And realistically, a lot of our customers may have already built something like a follow-up process in some kind of local automation, but we want to really make that lift easier for our customers. So Megan, let's take a look at this new follow-up process.
Yes, absolutely. So this is exactly where our new feature comes in. So meet the follow-up process. For those of us who have worked in support before, we know that we can respond to a customer really fast, let's say within the hour, and then we may not hear a response from the customer for a few days or maybe ever again. Or maybe it's on support, right? Like maybe I'm working internally and I need to follow up with the customer the next day for an update with the team. So the follow-up process will automatically reflag a case as a reminder when no action has been taken on the case. So case flags makes it really easy to automate that follow-up process, and you can allow agents to set their own follow-up dates and times as well. So
That's
a
awesome.
follow-up, yeah, exactly. A follow-up process is really key in making sure that customers are getting the support they need and ensuring good support habits with agents. So let's see how it's set up. So
Awesome.
we will have a new tab in the case flag setup wizard called follow-up process. I'm going to toggle on enable. That seems like a good place to start. And next I want to configure my fields. So the follow-up field is going to be a date and time field that's going to be used to reflag the case. And the next steps field will be a brief summary of the next action to be taken. So what's cool here is that I can create a new date and time field, or I can use an existing field already if maybe I have this in my process. So we don't want you to make unnecessary fields, and you can select them here.
I think what's really great, when we were considering designing this, we had to recognize that our customers have built automation around these fields. So we wanted to give you the option of saying, look, if you've already done some of this, we can reduce that stress for you, reuse some of those fields in Salesforce, make use of that. But it's also something where you just, however you want to configure it, if you haven't built those fields, we just handle it all for you in the setup. I think it makes it a lot easier for people to do a little bit of an easier lift to get this automation in there. So let's take a look at some of the things that you can do with that follow-up process that are really good quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to pause also and talk about the next steps field too, because this is such an important field. And this field is really to help future you, right? The next step field sets you up for success in the future, where you don't have to think about what needs to be done because you're reducing that handle time of a case over time. You're not wasting time getting caught up every time you're looking through case threads, trying to be like, hey, where did I leave off next? The next step field is really great for that. So I think it's also a good idea to turn on this feature, which is automatically clear follow-up fields on case closure. No more action is needed. I shouldn't need any more next steps. I can clear those fields. So Howard, Now's the fun part. We get to create the follow-up process. So similar to custom aging speeds, we have a default follow-up process, and then we allow for you to set up multiple follow-up processes in here. So this is really important. You may want different teams to have different follow-up times, or maybe you have a high priority case that you want to follow up on 1 hour instead of 2 days. So here is where we set up that default follow-up process. So first I'm going to put in the time, let's say 2.5 days. Perfect. And now I want to set up the default follow-up process. So I'm going to set the initial text that's going to show when a case is first created. So an example would be, let's put send initial follow-up to customer. So, or send follow-up email. So when that case gets created, that's the text that's going to show in the next steps. And then I want to set up the subsequent next step text that will populate after that initial response. So let's do something like follow up with customer. So then I'm going to select the aging speeds that this is applicable for, and it's done. It's that easy to implement a follow-up process to make sure that no customers are forgotten.
And something that we really thought about when designing this was having good follow-up might be a very standard thing. It might be like, look, if something goes dark for 2 days, always do a follow-up. So rather than making each follow-up part of the aging speed, we allow you to say, look, here's the follow-up process, apply it to these existing aging speeds. When I think about that compared to building this automation, if you wanted to have automation for follow-up, you're probably only going to configure one version of it. You probably, maybe you'll configure one version and one variation. We let you just do it so that the aging speed sort of drive everything, and the follow-up processes can pick which aging speed they go to. I think it's a really nice way to really leverage what Salesforce is good at and what our app can really facilitate for you for the time to value. So this makes it super duper easy. Using multiple aging speeds, great follow-up to go along with it. Pretty much everything's just right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see it in action. So I've been assigned a new case, and I'm going to see that that next steps has already been populated for me to send that initial email follow-up. Once I take an action on the case and the flag is cleared, I can see that the next steps is automatically going to populate, and that date and time of when I need to follow up is also going to populate here. But let's say I need to follow up a little bit faster. So I can edit these two fields. Let's say, what's today, the 3rd? Let's have some fun. Let's see it in action. And let's say I want something a little more detailed here. Send customer updated form, and I'm going to save. So then what will happen in 2 minutes, hopefully, is that the component will reflag this case and it will clear that follow-up on date and time.
So while we're waiting for this magical demo, if you've got any questions about this at this point, it's a good time to start putting those in the chat. We'll take a look at them. We'll address those questions. But one of the things that I was thinking about with this follow-up process is, what if I don't really want to use the next steps field? If I'm just I just care about it reflagging, I don't really want to use the next steps field. How do we handle that, Megan? What do we what's sort of involved with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's one thing here is that you don't need to define that next steps text. So let's say you're like, hey, I only really care about, I want it to be blank, or maybe I want the agents to fill that in. You can leave that blank in the setup and then it will be blank here on the page. Or if you don't want this at all, you can just remove this field from the page. You don't even have to use it.
I think what's pretty great about that is how our customers want to work. We're letting them do that. We're sort of allowing them to say, what's important for me is I want to follow up, or I want the next steps to be defined for when the case is created. But you can also, I believe, you can leave that blank for when the case is created, but subsequent things, you might have a default text for that. So those follow-up steps really are something that, whether your agents are going to define them, whether you're going to give them some fast forward buttons, things like that, it really, really lets you do that. And oh my God, the demo gods have answered while we were vamping. Don't you just love that?
Exactly. Yes. So you'll see that the component gets reflagged. One thing is we do need a refresh just to clear out that follow-up date and time.
Oh, so our component refreshed automatically, but Salesforce needed a refresh. Let's just call it what it is.
Yes, exactly. So future me is going to be really happy that I filled out the next steps field. I don't need to get back up to speed on what I need to do here. And then also when it gets reflagged, it's going to populate in that utility bar, right? So it's going to, I have some red flag cases. It's going to pop in order of priority here. So really full circle here on being able to follow up. And then when it gets reflagged, add that right back into the utility bar.
Awesome. Well, let's pause for a moment and take some
Mhm.
questions. There is a question in the
Yay.
chat, which is just to clarify, we don't need both fields. We can use one or the other. I think the clarification there would be you need the date time field. The
Yes.
follow-up date time you definitely need. You
Mhm.
don't have to use the next steps field if you don't want. It's there for you. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. You do need the date time though.
Mhm.
Cool. Let's see
Great
if there are
question.
other questions in the chat. That was an excellent question. That is one that I know we're going to get asked a lot from our customers, like which ones do we need here? So love that. I am currently not seeing any more questions in the chat, but I'm going to give it 11 more seconds just in case. And awesome. Megan, let's talk about the manager experience, please.
Yes, absolutely. So the last leg of our journey is the manager. So the support manager is overseeing all the cases, the support agents, the metrics. It's really a lot to handle. So as the manager, I get a Slack from one of our agents, Brian, who had an emergency and has to take the rest of the day off. So looking at the switchboard, I can see there's a ton of cases in Brian's name. I can see there's a few red flags here, and we don't want the customer to feel this impact. So we better assign these cases fast. So let's look at the most urgent flags. So I can use switchboard filtering. I'm going to pull that all the way over to the red flags. It's going to filter that in. And I want to use the switchboard to rebalance this workload. So if I drag into the morning shift, switchboard is going to automatically see who has the most bandwidth and reassign to the most available agent. So I'm going to pull those over. Perfect. And now I want to reassign the rest of the cases. So I'm going to pull that filter back. And it looks like Howard wants some cases.
What? No, don't give me anything. What are you doing? I'm not supposed to do any work.
Exactly. So we have reprioritized all of these cases, but as the manager, I also just got a high priority email from a client. It looks like Barbie has submitted a high priority case.
Everything
So
for Barbie is high priority.
yes, exactly. And I just dropped those cases into the morning shift. So I don't really know where it went. But what I can do is I can use the search function up here by contact, by case number, and I'm going to see where that case was put to. So it looks like I have ownership. Awesome. I know it's going to be taken care of. So you can see that as the manager, I just reprioritize the day in a few minutes without having to look through list views or really spend precious time reassigning those cases.
That's great.
Mhm.
So let's go back to questions. There's a really kind of an interesting question here, which is, can you have it not clear the follow-up on field? I think my users would want to know what time they were supposed to follow up, even if they're not able to get on it right away. So interesting question. Megan, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So when you have the follow up date and time, that's not going to clear out until action is taken on the case. So that's going to completely stay. So they will still see that an action needs to be taken. They'll still see that date and time, and the flag will still be present. And then they would need to take that action to clear the flag. I hope that helps clarify. Howard, if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, I would also say this. Even if you don't make those fields visible on your layout, you just have them all being done automatically, arguably the length of time the case has been flagged is the signifier that says you were supposed to follow up. Something action needed to be done, and it's been 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, whatever that length of time is, so that you are never going to, for lack of a better term, you're always aware of how long it's been waiting for you to act, whether or not you're using the follow-up process. So if the case reflagged because it was a follow-up, that's why your next steps field is really valuable. If the case reflags because the customer responds to something, you didn't wait for that follow-up field to be reached. It just reflagged it. So it's fair to say, even if you can't see those fields, they're still sort of like case flags itself is presenting you that context. Cool. Another question, and this is about reassigning cases in the switchboard. So reassigning cases won't assign to people who are out of office, question mark?
Oh, that is a great question. So, right now, it is not respecting the out of office. We do allow you to see the out of office status. So, you know, as you're manually triaging, not to drag and drop to that person. For example, I wouldn't drag a case into Brian's because I can see that it's out of office. That is definitely on the roadmap to get that in to respect those out of office statuses when we're reassigning cases. But for now, it's going to go across the agents that are visible.
I think it's also fair to say in the switchboard, let's say, for example, on the view that you're showing now, and I'm going to switch back to your screen.
Mhm.
If you saw that out of office message for Brian, if you were just reassigning, dropping onto that group, it's not going to give Brian the case back.
Right.
So let's like if Brian's in that group and you're just dragging it onto the group, it's going to say, well, Brian had it. We will pick anybody other than Brian. And that's regardless of whether the out of office message is set or
Mhm.
not. And then let's say, for example, let's say Kristen also had an out of office message. You could uncheck Kristen from that group.
Mhm.
And then when you drag onto that group, it will not assign anything to Kristen because you've said don't assign. So we do give you a little bit of that. Like if you want to assign it to specific people inside of a group, you can turn people on and off inside of the group or individually in terms of what's shown. So that kind of it gives you a lot of flexibility to use it. I think one of the reasons we haven't done the respecting the out of office date and time is because it is a little finicky in terms of when it starts showing up and when it's cleared. So, like, if I set my out of office to be like, let's say I set my out of office message to say I'll be out of office next Monday and Tuesday, but it's still only Thursday. I'll see the out of office message in the switchboard, but I'd still want to get cases today. The support manager might only give me things that are easy for today and tomorrow, knowing that harder cases, if I'm going to be out of office for a couple of days, not to do that. So those are some pretty great questions.
Mhm.
Let's see if there's other questions in the switchboard before we go back to our slides here. Well, with that, I'm gonna switch over here and say we're gonna look at pricing, and pricing is for sorry about that. For I'm doing a little switcheroony here. For existing clients, the follow-up process, all that is going to be included. The switchboard is included in your package. The utility bar component is included. It is all included. So if you're not already using the utility bar component or switchboard and soon that follow-up process, existing customers, that is just going to be, you'll just need the latest version. Switchboard's been included for a while. So even if you're on a version that might be, a few months old, you have access to that switchboard and the utility bar as well. You just need to give yourself for the switchboard, it's the manager permission set.
Mhm.
For the utility bar, it is anyone, and that just needs to be configured in Lightning App Builder. As for pricing, Case Flags starts at $2,700 for new clients, which includes 15 user licenses, and guided configuration is available. Please contact one of your app advisors for a personalized quote. Also, super duper important, and my God, if I start clicking the wrong buttons here, what the heck am I doing? Okay, cool. We are going to be at booth 124 at Dreamforce. And when I say we, I mean the nice team of people that you see here. Chad, George, myself, Ketley, Sam, and Seth are all going to be there. It's going to be very exciting. So what that means is, let's say, for example, you have, I don't know, maybe you've got an idea for something for one of our products. And you're like, hey, I want to talk to Howard about this. Come to the booth. Come see me. Whisper in my ear and don't share it with anyone, or just talk to me about it. It should be a lot of fun. I know we're going to have some swag at the booth. I'd love to give you some good Vicasso swag. And also, seriously, if you're a customer and you're at Dreamforce, please come by and say hello. We love talking to our customers, especially in person. So that would be absolutely great. So next up, Megan,
Awesome.
we
Yeah.
love feedback.
We do. Yeah. So we always want your feedback. A lot of the features that you see here is really shaped by clients who have asks and wants. So definitely schedule one-on-one time with the product managers. We also highly encourage you to join our service experience suite group on the Trailblazer community. We're going to be posting when this follow-up process is going live. We're going to be, I'm sure, posting about Dreamforce. We post about webinars. So definitely join.
Got it. Also,
Yes, this
support.
is us. So we're a fun bunch. This is app support. So definitely we want to help if you have any issues, if you're setting up the follow-up process, have any questions, you can reach us self-service, chat, email, phone. We are definitely here to help.
And
And lastly, always have to end with review on the App Exchange. So if you like case flags, if you're a current user of case flags, we definitely want to know about it. It definitely helps out us as an ISV. So we definitely appreciate it, and we appreciate you guys for being here. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. See if there's any questions in the chat.
yeah, let's take a look. A little bit of a question about API only licenses. Do the permission sets work for that license? Technically, yes, but there's no reason to. Those API users would not have access. They're effectively, they work headless. So an API user giving them the manager permission set wouldn't, there isn't a way for that API user to be using the switchboard.
Sure.
So you would still probably want to just keep that to the standard case flags permission set for that API user so that it could do case flags things in the background. And if there's other questions, just drop them in the chat before we take off and depart. But any other questions here? I'm just checking here. I don't see anything, but I'm going to wait another 20 seconds because YouTube Live is always delayed a little bit. So you might be crazily typing your question in and we're 30 seconds ahead of you. So I vamp for a little bit just to wait to see, because I know as soon as I say thank you and everyone goes and it's like, oh, look at that, everything's going to be there. We say thank you, then it's like, oh, nope, the question just
Really
pops in
great
just as we
question,
click
yeah.
stop. And we like to get those answered for you. But since I have vamped for that relevant 30 seconds, I'm going to say thank you to everybody for joining us. I really appreciate you being here. Megan, great job on this live stream. You know, all good stuff that way. So thank you very much. We'll see you all at Dreamforce. All right. Take care, everyone.